TIFU, by taking a sip up my wife's weed-infused coffee. This happened a few months ago, but is still a stark reminder to know your limits and take things slow, lest you're flung helplessly into the upside down where your brain ceases to function and you have to feebly text your wife for help from the bedroom. My wife, Amy, uses medicinal weed to help combat anxiety. She uses small amounts throughout the day in order to steady her nerves. She has an extremely high tolerance and has found that edibles have no effect on her. She can pop a 200 mg gummy and feel nothing. Adorable me, on the other hand, nibbles a 5 mg THC CBD gummy and I'm on the edge of overthinking my entire life. Anyway, my wife's father smokes to help with various bodily injuries acquired throughout his life and often makes tinctures and infusions as experiments with potency. He, naturally, has a high tolerance as well. My wife's experiences with edible immunity seemed to intrigue my father-in-law and he began using her as a test subject to see if he could elicit any kind of psychological or physiological response. The idea of my gray-haired, bathrobe-clad, pop-in-law tinkering with pot potions in his kitchen is a hilarious visual in and of itself. But I digress. The day came and he divulged his perfect solution. Or substance, I guess? A huge pad of knee-shaking, heart-bursting, ID-destroying, weed-infused butter. My wife kept this innocent-looking yellow cube of mindfuck in our freezer for a few weeks, devising the proper time to utilize it. Then, on a lazy weekend, she decided to melt the butter in a cup of coffee and slowly sip the stuff while taking note of how she felt. This is where my stupid 5 mg ass comes in. I'll just take a sip, I thought. Couldn't hurt, right? Just a lil sip, followed by a beer or two. Enjoy my evening. I raised the mug to my lips and noticed the oily drops of liquefied fuck butter slick to the surface of the brown liquid. I sipped. A tiny sip. This is hot coffee, I'd better be careful kind of sip. This couldn't do more damage than the little gummy. I was wrong and there was no going back. My fate was sealed. We sat down to watch a movie with our kids. 30 minutes went by. 40 minutes. About an hour. Nothing. I felt completely normal. Nary a twitch or fuzzy sensation to speak of. My father-in-law called Amy to see how things are going. She'd finished the entire cup and felt nothing. She casually mentioned that I had a sip of said coffee a while back and also felt nothing. There was a pause. Then my wife's brow furrowed. "No, he's okay," she responded. Her eyes shot over to mine in a confirming glance. "Oh," I thought. "That's probably not good. I'll keep an eye on him," she said jovially and said her goodbyes. It was shortly thereafter that everything changed. I began to feel my extremities go numb. When I moved my head, it seemed my eyes needed time to catch up. I blinked and took a deep breath. My heart sounded loud and throbbed in my ears. Its beating seemed to interrupt my breathing. I tried to play it cool. I shifted my weight on the couch, tried to stretch weakly to jostle the foreign vibrations out of my limbs. It was happening. I'd sipped more than I could swallow. I suddenly felt the urge to pee. I stood up, not saying a word, and pieced out of the living room. The ol' Irish goodbye. I found my way to the master bathroom and forgot why I'd gone there. I stopped, looked around for a moment, then stepped back into our dark bedroom. I stood there for a good 5 minutes, frozen, staring. I couldn't think. I wasn't sure what to do next. After a while I managed to pull out my phone and text my wife a pitiful, "I'm feeling too much." Exactly what I wrote. She uses this phrase to torment me to this day. And stumbled to our bed. My wife is the best, she's a champ. She knew exactly what to do. She calmly left the kids to their movie, explaining that I was suffering from a migraine, laid next to me in bed, held my hand and stroked my hair. Fitting of the little lost boy I'd become. Intensely introspective, rambling, occasionally exclaiming in a shaky voice, "What did your dad do?" Quote, "It was horrible. The muscles in my legs felt as though they were firing and twitching of their own accord. I couldn't get a full breath as my heart's panicked pounding interrupted each inhalation. I couldn't entertain a thought or subject for more than a few sad seconds before my wife would have to prod me on. Staying in one place too long, dwelling on a subject for more than a few beats, would expose me to intense panic and introspection. I was Charlie Sheen high for hours, rocketing through the quantum realm at top speed, raving about the follies of my misspent youth, shouting then calm, panicked then reassured, my wife never leaving my side. I slept for 11 hours. And in the morning experienced my first weed hangover. No headache, no nausea, no intense pain of any kind really. Just a fatigue like I'd never felt. Like I'd been clenching my ass cheeks and curling my toes for 2 days straight while glacier water was poured over my naked genitals. My wife, you ask? She never felt a thing. Nothing. The whole damn cup of chrome-bubbled coffee had no effect on her infinitely nurturing form. I had the pleasure and embarrassment of recounting my ordeal to Amy's family a few weeks later. My father-in-law found it terribly funny that he'd almost cracked my psyche like an MK Ultra psyop. Be careful out there, folks. Have fun. Take advantage of new experiences when they're presented to you. But please remember to try just a little bit of that edible then. You know, wait an hour. TL. Doctor. I took a tiny sip of my wife's coffee that contained a strong weed-infused butter. Panicked. Laid in bed like a corpse. Hands crossed over my chest for hours as she stroked my head like a panicked infant. I have a hypothesis. Correct me if I'm wrong here. But I think your tiny sip effectively skimmed all of the melted butter right off the top of the coffee. Water and fats, oils do not homogenize unless the fat molecules are mechanically broken apart to allow a complete homogenization to take place. This is done usually by a large machine in industrial circumstances. Think making yogurt or some types of cheeses where they need to ensure creams mix with milks in other ingredients entirely. When you sip coffee, you typically do so in a way that pulls from the top of the glass because that thin layer at the top that is exposed to the cool air is much more tolerable to drink compared to the straight from hell devil juice that resides directly beneath it. Oils and fats are less dense, or maybe the molecules have more buoyancy than water. IDK. The shit floats on water though. So if sat for a minute without being stirred again, then that entire dose of THC was chillin' on top. And you sucked it right down. Could also explain why wife didn't feel shit. Husband frickin' hogged all the brainbuster butter. LMAO, glad you pulled through. Next time give it a quick stir and sip it before it comes back to the top. Is your Phil selling the MK Ultra butter, by chance? It reminds me of the time I ate the whole bag of my husband's gummy edibles not realizing they were edibles. And I have very low tolerance. Good times. 2 things. Your wife sounds like a lovely person. I can't believe how high. Sorry? Her tolerance is. I can eat a 5 or 10 milligrams gummy and get pretty whacked. If she can do 200 milligrams and function. That's crazy. She never felt a thing. Nothing. Quote. Probably because you sipped it all off as it floated on the top. You are a good writer, man. Nice storytelling. You know when you tip a pan that has drippings in it from, say, roasting a chicken, and all the fat, oil, settles in the direction of which way you're tipping? My guess is by tipping the cup to take a sip. You got all butter. I feel for you for sure. But I love me some weed butter. I'll put it on toast when I have cramps. Love, love, love it. Ah yes, the experience of being violently overhigh. ID destroying, D. You missed the perfect opportunity to watch Doctor Strange. I'll have what she's having. Man, this sounds like the first time I took half a dab and couldn't fucking move for hours. My stoner brother told our parents I got my period and my mom came and laid in bed with me petting my head. The existential crisis I experienced though. Holy shit. Never again. Tears of joy. I can barely tolerate low-dose gummies as well. Lol. My first time trying edibles got me yeeted off the earth. 20 milligrams of hybrid. Now I take 20 milligrams and I feel good. Just hungry and relaxed. I don't think people accurately represent just how scary weed can be. One of the first times I used it I went way overboard and the entire room was visually leaning left and right. My body felt like it was in a compress and my head was on an actual roller coaster. One of the scariest experiences of my life. Only reason I didn't completely panic was I knew weed couldn't kill you. That feeling when the cannabutter hits like datura. Your father-in-law is a certified mad scientist and I, a distant stranger on the internet, love, fear and respect him. Weed makes my anxiety worse. IDK how it helps some people with it. Yup. Nephew uses grain alcohol to clean his pot paraphernalia. Over and over. No idea the content level. He brought me a 1/2 pint. The explanation. Go easy. I did. 1 shot of it in a 1-shot drink. So 2 shots of 190. Basic. Not basic. An hour later the wife was headed to bed. I asked her to stay a while as my old ass realized I was headed for a ride. I seldom smoke, so no tolerance, and this stuff needed iron tolerance. Started at 9. By 9:30 the fella above and I were twins. Just lost in and out of any level of functional. Laying in bed just wasted. Short of breath. The streaks of color you see with your eyes closed freaked me out. About 10 the level of cottonmouth was deadly. Sat up to walk to the bathroom. After begging to wife. And found the bed and floor were not communicating with anyone. Me for sure. Sit till I am cold. Lay back down and finally pass out. About 3 my old ass needs to pee. I should have woken the wife. Woulda been real bad. To vid that stroll. It was crooked. Long and only 15 feet. Few MTS later my nephew. That I had called everything but human. Admitted he had not sampled it before giving it to me. He admitted that even he, a certified stoner, had a hard time dealing with the high. So, to paraphrase the gentleman, up. Mind the gap. Dude, I want what you guys had. Fucking beautifully told. 13/10 read it again. Was too good. Bless your heart lol. Oh my god. I chuckled through this whole post until I cried and chuckled some more. FYI. CBD helps counteract THC. Keep some on hand to smoke or vape when you go over the edge like this. Just remember kids, you can always have more. You can't have less.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.